today, I want to let everyone know that my current company is the 10th company of my journey so far. And the past maybe 6 company, I'm working as a user researcher. So I think the best I can contribute to the community might be just help everyone walk through my journey, so that if you plan to have a journey in the UXR role, you probably have a better understanding, like in different setup, in different industrial, how user researcher can help the organization and feel how it feels like to be a user researcher in different type of companies. Okay, so if you participate in all the sessions, I will assume you are interested in UXR. So today I'm walk you through my product research journey. Yeah, like I mentioned, so today I'm sharing a few things I learned along my journey as a product researcher. Also, a few things I'm still learning and I plan to learn in the future. So I hope everyone, if you plan to have a journey in this path, probably that can help you navigate this path better. So there's a few sessions in this slide, and every time when you see this blue slide, I will pause a bit so that you can ask some questions along the presentation. So let's start with my story. I came from Taiwan and now I'm based in Singapore. So I came from a psychology background. So let me introduce a little bit about Taiwan. Taiwan with the 24 million population, with a slightly bigger than Beijing size of the land. And we are double the size of the population in Beijing, right? So you get a sense of how it feels like. And I came from a psychology background. I didn't know what does that mean in my journey back then, but now I feel like all the dots connected together. So what is psychology about, right? Psychology is all about people, how people grow, how people learn, how people remember things, how people memorize things, how people interact with other people, right? So basically everything about people. But also there's a subject called statistic. Right. So we also learn how to form the hypothesis, how to test out the hypothesis, how to interact with other people. Like in social science, how can you come up with assumptions, like hypotheses, and test it out? Right. So that was the starting point before my journey into this tech world. Then I started my tech journey from a very small company, around less than 30 people back then. But remember, that was a very early stage in my journey. So back then, we have only one model of iPhone or iPad. We don't have so many different size and resolution yet, and we don't have material design yet as well, right? So back then, people used to, write down the restaurant you plan to go to, how to go to there, right? And at which block you need to turn left or turn right. You will see a bookstore before going to that restaurant. Remember all those, old days, right? But this is the time when people start to think about how do people do things on the go, interact with the screens on the go. So I was a project manager in a company. There are only 3 different roles in the companies. There's engineer, there's designer, and everything not related to programming or designing would be my job, right? So I talk to my client, I try to understand their requirement, where they're coming from, and talk to designers and engineers to understand their consideration. And also like in different OS operation system, in iOS, what things to do, and Android, what things to do, and what are the benefits of following the principles, right? And how do people, different roles, how do they prioritize different things from their end? So we all know this triangle struggle, right? If you want something very quick, then you'll be costly, or you have a lot of resource, right? We always try to compromise or try to find a sweet spot among these 3 different factors, right? So that was the beginning of my tech journey. Then I joined an ODM company as a user researcher. So ODM stands for Original Design Manufacturer. What does that mean? That means my company built a smartphone or a tablet or a laptop all in one or ecosystem, but we don't have our own brand. But we have our client like Dell or Lenovo. We are selling our product to them. So that was the time I started to think about how users play a role in the bigger picture. So you can see the diagram I put at the bottom. At the right side, I was trying to evaluate if we want to replace our cursor, mouse cursor, by eye tracking. What are the benefits of doing that? And what are the potential challenges we will need to face? And what are some of the posture, how people would interact with the laptop or whatever setup? At the left side, I was trying to map out if we want to do voice recognition, what are some of the stages, right? And what are different technology need to play in different stages. So it's really about how people and technology should or can interact together. So I have a few examples when I was working there. So we really go to people, we really went to people's house and see how people are using their devices and what are reasons they set it up in different OS, right? And how do they share the device with other people when they are in different scenarios? What are their considerations? How do people do things? Why do they do things in that way? Okay, so remember there was a period of time when our laptop can, swipe, switch, detach, all those different formats, right? Different functions. So from a user researcher's perspective, I help the team to try to understand when the laptop can have so many different formats, what are different modes can be, how would different modes can be helpful in different scenarios, and how do the end user might perceiving those different formats? Do they feel because now it's switchable, so it's more it's easier to be broken, or what kind of sound or feeling they want it to be when they interact with the device? Okay, then after some time, I moved on to OBM. That means we have our own brand. So this company was Acer. And I was in Acer for a few projects. One of the projects was the gaming project. So eventually it became Predator. If you are in gaming this area, you might heard about that. So I want to know a little bit about like what OBN and ODN different from each other and how it different from each other, right? So in this company, I have the end-to-end collaboration with more like broader roles. In the previous company, is more we have a lot of concept, but because we don't have our own brand. So I know at the very beginning that you won't go to a shop and see this is my product, right? Because it's always on other company's name, right? But then in this OBM, maybe you do have an opportunity to see something you work on, eventually go to the market. Right. So we start with business analysis, how the business landscape looks like. And then we come up with persona by talking to people, doing research. And then we share the insight with different roles cross-functionally. Then we do market precision. And then we do another round of research to evaluate our ideas. Right. And then the designers come out with a design language. You need to think about how those design language will be applied on different platforms in different, like it can be lighting, it can be a material, the texture you want to apply on a laptop, right? What are things gamers care about? And also, what are the factors they consider when they want to purchase a new device? And then we try to map out the user segment and the user need and come up with a strategy, like compared to all the other models in the company, how these gaming products should differentiate from others. And some of the finding actually, a lot of people, they purchase a machine, not just for one purpose, right? I want to use the same machine to play in game. I also want to use the same machine for example, editing my video or having a phone call with my client, etc. Right? And for different reasons, people purchase different devices, right? So what are some of the elements we should differentiate from other model? Some of the factors we can share with other models. So in this project, there are business analysis, there are marketing people, there are industrial designers, visual designers, UI designers, interaction designers, hardware engineer, thermal engineer, assembling engineers. So you can see it's not really just about user researcher. It's about like cross-functionally, how can we as a team build something meaningful for our gamer, and also benefit to our business. And there are so many different roles involved. So another example, I did a research around education. So we really go to different school at different age. Like we went to elementary school, secondary school, high school, and see how different teachers teaching different subjects, how they try to apply different devices in the classes, right? And there are teachers who try to apply smartphone or iPad or a tablet or Chromebook, right? And what are the pros and cons of doing that? We also talk to administrators in the school to see what are their concerns, how do they maintain different type of devices, what are the pros and cons, what are the potential scenario people may want to apply, see the benefit of using these particular devices, and what are their considerations if they don't want to use, what are the factors holding them back. So you can see like from my hardware experience, actually they are in the same industry, so the topic didn't change as much. But so back then I was thinking, okay, maybe I should explore for something else. What else should I do, right? So I start to talk to some other different companies. Then eventually I landed in Singapore. I joined Grab. So growing up in Taiwan, I know where Singapore is, but I don't know what is Grab back then. So it was in 2016. And Grab now I know it started from transportation service. Then gradually they open up for food delivery, for digital payment as their other business arms. So Singapore, a little bit about Singapore. Singapore has 5.5 million population, only 3.5 are citizens. That means around 2 million, they are either foreigners or they're holding PR, which is residential. They are staying here, but they are not local Singaporean. So here I saw people from Europe, the US, different countries. Some of the country, I wasn't aware where they was until I moved to Singapore and met some people came from those countries. And we have people from, North Asia or Southeast Asia, Australia, etc. It's really diverse in this very tiny island. And there are 4 different official languages. So what does that mean moving from hardware industrial to software industrial to me? First of all, it's a young company, it's a startup. The time when I joined, it was just 4 years old. That means the most senior person in this entire company was just 4 years senior than me. Right, compared to the previous company, it's a 30 years company, and many of them will feel, okay, I know this business quite well. So as a user researcher, as a product researcher, a lot of time you need to communicate with other cross-functional partners. If that person have that perception, I know much better than you, then I wouldn't say you cannot change their perception, but you would take much more effort to change it. Right. The second thing is I'm one of the early members in the UX team. The time when I joined the team, there was, I think, less than 10 people. The time when I left the team, we have more than 80 people in the UX team. So you see the team grow rapidly, and you work with 10 people, you work with 30 people, 50 people, 80 people. The way you work needs to be adaptable. Also, everyone need to agree on some principle. Everyone need to be able to adjust a bit based on what are the pros and cons of doing things differently, right? And also, Grab is a supply and demand. It's a ride-hailing business, so equivalent to maybe Uber in the West country, right? So it's a supply and demand platform. A lot of things you need to think about. What I did on the driver's side, what would happen on the passenger side? So it's an ecosystem you need to think about. And then there's online experience and offline experience as well, right? So you book a ride, you need to find which car is my car, right? And in many big shopping malls in Southeast Asia, it's just very crowded. So we do need to help our user to figure out how to help them navigate their journey. right? And also it's cross country. So it's not as big as Uber is all over the world, but within maybe 2 hour, 3 hour flight, you can reach all the different countries in the market. And at the right side, I list down all the countries the service supported. So you can see the same word driver. In Singapore, we show English. In different countries, it looks very different from each other. So naturally, you will consider how this design can be scalable in different markets, in different countries. Right? So that was about Grab. And then a few pages about what research I did at Grab. So we did user research in Southeast Asia, like different markets, different countries. And a lot of time, our cross-functional partner would join the trip. And we do the research in the real field as well as in the labs, because our driver, every day they are driving on the street. So the design need to work well when the driver is on the street. Okay. And then we do interview as well as observation. And sometimes that's very insightful. You see all the drivers are wearing gloves, right? How do they interact with their phone? And some of them do have two phones, right? If they are riding a motorcycle on the street for the whole day, how do they keep the battery alive, right? All those questions, you wouldn't be able to find the answer in the lab, right? So we also do observation for the offline experience from our passenger side and driver side as well. So at the top, you can see that is one of our driver center, help the driver to onboard to our platform. So the driver need to take photos and fill out the form and then give them their driving license. And our folks need to verify their driving license, etc. So you need to know some of the drivers, they are more senior, and they may not be familiar with smart devices, right? And whatever we can help and how can we scale that up to other countries, those are some of the key information we want to catch from doing an interview or observation or whatever methodology in a real field. And at the bottom, we were observing if the passenger are a group of family, right? What are the things they need to consider when they book a ride from place A to place B, right? What are the challenge they're facing? What are the things they need to carry with them? Okay. Then after some time, I left Grab. I joined another company working on the entertainment product. So I joined Viki Rakuten. Viki is a platform allow people to watch streaming video online. So majority of the content are Asia-focused content, like Korean drama, or Japanese drama, Chinese drama, right? And it's a global business, but actually our core markets are more on places like Latin America or Europe. You'll be surprised about that because in Asia area, it's much easier to get those content. They're not necessary to come to your platform to watch K-drama, right? But then in Latin America, in Europe, it's relatively difficult to find those content. And my assumption was that maybe people would prefer better experience on a entertainment platform. So I was trying to shift from utility or productivity focused product to enjoyment or entertainment, right? Experience focused product. And I talked to people from, what I did was I put a hyperlink in our website, in our service. Whoever willing to talk to me, I will try to set up a time to talk to them. So whoever click on the link, they fill out a form, then I will reach out to them. So we talked to a few super fans. You can imagine, right? We didn't pay any incentive to them. So whoever motivated to talk to me, they are super fans, right? It's not representable, but at least we get something from real user, okay? And you will see it's emotional associated. Wiki do play a role in people's life. And it's a niche market, right? Based on what I shared earlier, those markets, the mainstream would be Netflix, right? What does that mean? So some of the users tell us, I do like your platform, but the thing is I have no one to discuss about those K-drama because people around me, they are not watching K-drama, right? Or I do want to share your platform to my friends, but they are not into K-drama, right? So it's not because your, for example, referral process is broken. People just have those difficulty refer your product to other people. And you wouldn't know unless you really talk to the driver. Okay, so I was doing remote research. Back then, I didn't travel to any places. And before they talk to me, I would ask them to fill up a kind of assignment before the conversation to get to know them a little bit better, right? So I try to make them emotionally connected to this conversation. For example, this is the example, the template I sent to them, right? I want them to put a photo that can represent themselves. I want them to write down like what I like in my life, what I want Vicky to improve, what I like the most about Vicky. One thing I want to tell Vicky team, right? And how I would put a photo there or a diagram there to represent the connection between me and Vicky. And what are the scenario, what are the setup when I watch video on Vicky. So we see something like this. So you'll be surprised that our users are so into this service. So before this research, everyone would just look at the dashboard, right? How many people became a membership, sign up for the membership, and what are the funnel looks like, etc. But when you really talk to them, for example, this one, so this user is a 70 years old art teacher, and she was putting her artwork in this is me slide. So to help us get a little bit more about this person and the way they show their appreciation to this platform, the way they connect with Vicky. So this person was putting this, cherry blossom a picture, because every time when I watch Vicky, I feel I'm walking on this path and it's windy and I can feel the cherry falling down. It's very comfortable. That was how they see our service. So when you share this kind of feeling with the team will feel connected. We have students, after their big exam, they want to watch on Viki. They want to binge watching K-drama over the weekend as a reward for them to work so hard about it. Right? We have some, I talked to someone from India, so that girl was trying very hard to talk to me because the connection was not good. And also, she was holding the mobile phone. I don't know how she did. She finished the entire deck. I was sharing as a Google slide format. I don't know what she did. She finished the entire deck on her phone. Like, we talked to someone from European as well. So she told me every day she needs to spend 2 hours in commute. And then when she reach home, it's usually 8 p.m. at night. And she watch one episode as a reward for working hard today. Right. So when you share those stories with your team is not able to or never going to see the product as just a product. They see it play a role in people's life. And I would summarize the conversation with the user as well as from their assignment, put that into 2 slides so that the team have something to refer to if they want to read through user profile in the future. So then I joined Google from Shanghai. Shanghai is a place, no matter which area you came from, as long as you are not from China, you will always be the minority. And Shanghai is the biggest city in China. It's a global financial hub. Right? Compared to Taiwan and Singapore, it's massive, right? It's almost the same population as Taiwan, but it's much smaller than Taiwan. Then, everyone knows Google. I don't need to introduce more about Google, but I want to talk a little bit about China or Shanghai in my experience. Right? I did some observation about it. So first thing, you go to China, people would ask you, like, are you going to scan my code or I can scan your code? That's how people connect it. And so maybe more than 90% of the mobile users are on WeChat. So that is the first thing you need to do. And people are familiar with scanning a code to do something. Right? You can see all those different apps, they have the scanner at very obvious position, either at the right top side or left top and corner. So this is one of the mainstream to do something in China. So you can see, you can scan a code to order food. This is like way before pandemic. People are already doing this. Or you can scan a code to pay in a supermarket. Or even in this, it's a building announcement, it's a poster, it's a physical poster. And people just put different QR code on top of there. And then if you want to see the news from this area, you scan this code. Right. So on this poster, there's actually no information about it. Right. You need to scan different code to see what's happening there. Okay. Then at the right side, you can see like scan a code to charge your, to park your car or to charge your car. Then scan a code you can do so many different things, to go into library, to borrow book from library, to buy a ticket in museum, to take the MRT, etc. So it's a very common way people understand how to interact with the code. And because of that, voice input and scanning the code enable them to do much, much more. Because so one of the example was the Double 11 holiday. I think it's equivalent to Black Friday holiday. So it's a big shopping day. Basically, everyone would prepare for shopping around that period of time. So what they did was, on the television, they have two different teams competing each other, and for all the users, all the audience, you can turn on your camera, go into a specific app. It can be Taobao, it can be Tmall, it can be JD.com, right? And then you scan a code to participate in those competition. What does that mean? So you vote for which team you think they will win. If you guess right, then you get voucher. Or they ask you to smile to the camera, and if you win again, you get voucher. So that's how they interact with the user in China. And I see this seamless online offline experience connected together, because that ecosystem was being built frictionlessly. Okay, the last thing about China I want to share is about the micro app. So I think you should be aware of that. In China, there's no Google Play. So in iOS, is well established, right? Apple defined their principle, how you should design an app, how it should look like. And those are the principles you need to follow. But in Android ecosystem, since Google Play is not there, so Huawei has Huawei App Store, Xiaomi has Xiaomi App Store. Different company come from different app store. And for the programmer, for the developer, it's really challenging to build something can distribute to all the different app store. But then since all the users in China or on Alibaba or on Tencent, that means WeChat, etc., they have their own ecosystem. So as long as I can build something following their mini program principle, I can reach 90% of the user, which is awesome, right? Even though you follow Google Play principle, you wouldn't be able to reach that amount of users. So it's easier for the developers to follow those rules. And also it's for the user. Now, if I go to McDonald's, I don't need to download another app anymore. I scan the code, then the WeChat will bring me to one of the mini program or micro apps. Then I can order from there, right? Then after I pay, I actually get voucher or I get points. Next time I can use those points, right? And I maybe automatically opt in to be a member of some loyalty program or within this merchant's ecosystem. And for the merchant, they get huge user base to reach out to, right? And for the platform, they expand their daily scenario to use the app. So it's not win-win, it's like win-win-win-win, right? Okay, so after China, I joined Google Pay team, focusing in India. So a little bit about India. It's almost the same population as China, but it's like 1/3 of the size. So it's really crowded. And also there are 20 plus official languages, right? So back then I was thinking about, okay, Google Pay, it seems like it's a payment service, and Google as a company, they have web service, they have apps, they have device service. So if you think about that as an ecosystem, it can be very interesting, right? And they try to build a connection between consumer and merchant and the platform, and it started from into India, then gradually will go to the US and the rest of the world. So I joined the team with those, imagination, like eventually it will be something like that. And to be honest, that's true, right? It's not the challenge in a technical side. It's doable. It's just like Google as a huge company, how can they come up with something that reflect their branding and do things right? So the thing is, back then in Shanghai, in Singapore, in Taipei, this is what you will see on the street. This is what we saw in India, right? And it's just we are not familiar with this view, and we as a team, we need to get closer to our user. You need to bring back those photos or videos for the team to understand how user interacting with each other and what do they care about, what are the scenarios they may use your product, right? Would it be very noisy? Do they trust this product? And what are some of the shops look like? Where would they put what machine? Do you want to put the code within like all the different codes, right? All those different questions to ask. And then I joined a private bank after Google. So before I joined, I was thinking about how UX can apply outside of tech company, right? And that in a private bank, you do ask the question, how do people manage their wealth when they reach sizable assets, right? So when I just joined, I try to map out all the different touch points for a client. And before that, I think in the past few decades, the banking systems, they are heavily rely on relationships. So a lot of that is about offline experience, how the relationship manager manage the relationship with the client, right? The face-to-face time, what they do in the real life, doing festival, for example, what do the client care about, how to make sure the client is engaged with the bank. And then I try to map out the online experience. We do have website, we do have, apps. Do people use those apps? How do those users, our clients, use those apps, right? And outside of our service, they are also banking with other organizations. How do they interact with other organizations, right? And there are some new features, new elements we want to add into this experience. How can we get feedback from there? And also there's always something you don't know, and the client may not be comfortable or may not be willing to share with you. Then how can we fill out this blank space? So it was heavily rely on offline experience, but how can we expand that and based on what we know, build something meaningful digitally to our client? So after Bank of Singapore, now I am in this crypto world. So when I just joined the world, I'm hearing all those different terminology that I don't get the sense of it. I don't know what does that mean. And that's totally normal back then. Now looking back, that's totally normal. But back then I was asking how this crypto world would change people's life. And I have been working in tech field for a few years. I wouldn't say I'm experienced in this area, but I would say in the past few years, I never really differentiate what are the differences between Java and JavaScript. Why do I need to understand all those different terminologies? And all those terminologies are the terminologies we communicate with the user. Will the user be able to understand all those different things, right? Then back to the user researcher perspective, right? Those are the questions user researchers should ask. Why do our user need a wallet, right? How do they get a token, right? There are tons of tokens, right? Why do they go to this token instead of another one? Who are willing to try and what motivated them to try, right? How can we help what are the challenges they're facing? How do they understand this crypto world, right? What are the potential opportunity in the future? So those are the questions I would ask to the team. So I hope you are still following me. This is my journey so far. I'm not sure whether we have any questions so far. Okay. If not, I would just continue. So you can see I try to put myself in different environment with different scale size and different product service. And so what did I learn, right? If you search online, you will find this definition. I'm not going to read it out, but you can see it's quite relevant to psychology, where I started, because it's all about people and all our users are people, right? And I have this short-term version for me and for my team. When I join the new team, I will let them know how I can help. So I would say this as the product research mission. I help the team to know the user so that we can solve the right problem by the right way. What does that mean? The team means the insight or the finding cannot stay just with me. It needs to be spreading out. And when people make every decision, they need to absorb those findings and insight, take that into consideration, right? Because I would not be able to join all the different meetings. Know the user including potential user, trend user, current user. Solve the right problem. How can we define what is the right problem to be solved, right? It's the first part of the double diamond. And then by the right way is the second part of the diamond. So along the journey, I think after I walk you through the journey, you probably feel that, right, that user element, product and service, methodology, industrial, market, business model, how diverse is the team, how mature the team is, and what is the working style, the company scale, roles and responsibility. So I think in most of the conference I participated, we've mentioned a lot about the design thinking process, the diverge and converge process. But we do need to think about what happened before and after the design thinking process. So before that, usually there should be some strategic thinking, maybe from market research, but it need to be quantitative to tell us as a company, as a team, what are the potential opportunity. Then design or user researcher, product team, try to solve the problem, fit or serve that purpose. And then after we roll out the product, we do need to think about what are the struggles our users are still facing, right? And what are the, for example, customer service tickets, what are the data funnel looks like. So I put user researcher, starting from user researcher, which is my role, but it's usually belong under the product cover and then under business, under company. So those are some of the questions I would ask you, as a researcher, you should consider, like who are the users? Is your user super fans or they are clients who don't have time and attention for you, right? And what is the product? What is the purpose of the product in our user's life? And what might be the business model? What business people care about? What stage the company is at? Are they at very stable stage? Are they the market leader or are they chasing another competitor? What is the status now? What are the expectations from the leaders? And the product team, usually they have PM, engineer, researcher, designers. But think about the user insight, like what I mentioned before and after, and we have different sources. We have the quantitative and qualitative data. So data analytics, business development, market research, customer service, they should be your partner supporting each other so that we can tell a more holistic story, more this holistic context to help the team. So I see this as a more ideal situation that even for UX people, you are familiar with people element, but you also understand what business care about, what engineer care about. Same as engineer and business people. If we all know each other a little bit better, right? We are a team, then we will know when to reach out to who and how that person can help each other. So I would assume everyone is familiar with this diagram. So my question to everyone is think about how might we better understand each other and maximize the overlap so that it's more possible to generate the innovation. So product thinking, I would urge every researcher to ask those questions to the team. Maybe if you can do this before your research, that would be good. If you cannot, at least in parallel, people should be aware of those questions to be answered. So what is the context? Why are we doing this now? What is the problem we are trying to solve? Why should we solve those problems? What is the value by doing this? Because when you do something, means you cannot do another thing. There's opportunity cost. People always tend to not pay that much attention on what they didn't do, right? And how do we as a team agree on what is success metrics, right? How can we measure it, right? And what is the impact to our user or to our business? You may not have all the answers, but as a team, we should ask those questions so that we have an opportunity to start a conversation. Okay, and as a product researcher, those are the hats I've been practicing. So one thing is about skill set, how to define the problem and which way is the best way to find the answer, right? Then the second one is the product knowledge, how our user connected our solution to their daily life and with how can we build a solution with a sustainable business model, right? How the team collaborate together, how to push things forward. That'll be very different as you join different teams or different scale of company, right? Then company strategy, in this context, what the company care about, right? And also, if you are building a product across different markets, you need to think about the culture in the market, right? At some point, you need to think about, do we want to, what is the sweet spot or a trade-off you need to make between scalability and localization? So, so far, is everyone still okay? Do we have any questions?
We do actually have a question. And I'm going to be asking this for CJ, who asked in the chat. Does it take the same amount of time to conduct research on the different sizes of a company? If not, what are the differences?
Okay, so I think different companies, they have different strengths and weakness, right? So usually if you join a smaller team, you should be more flexible, you should be faster, right? But then if you join a bigger company, there are a broader team you need to align with. A lot of time will be communication. That other team be aware of this team exists, right? And agree on the same objective this feature or this product want to achieve. So communication cost will be higher. So I don't have a standard for that, but I think user research, we work with people. A lot of elements in this job is about people, not just about the user, also about your cross-functional team supporting you. Because in the product company, user research itself doesn't really bring value to the company. You need others to absorb the findings or insight so that they can make better decisions. And it's also very difficult to prove, like, what if we didn't do that particular research? What would happen to the outcome? Because we never done it, right? And if you make another decision, you wouldn't know how things will be different. So back to the question, I think it's pros and cons. And usually in a smaller company, people should be more adaptive. I can share one example. When I was in Grab, usually like every 2 or 3 weeks, we are running one research. But then for the business, for the nature of the business, drivers and passengers, they are all over there, right? They are not too difficult to recruit, right? But then when I was in Google, for example, right, you do a research, you need to engage an agency and then to set it up, right? And then to communicate with cross-functional team to let them know what you're trying to do. Do they have any question they want to find the answer from this research, right? And it would take some time to set it up as well, especially that was around pandemic time. A lot of research was, before pandemic, either you would need to travel, right? After pandemic, you need to help the user to set up how to do video call. Not everyone will be familiar with that unless you are focusing on very specific group of people, right? You cannot imagine all the user, uncle, auntie, right? They understand how to set this up. And it's just not that easy to have an engaged conversation with a stranger in front of the monitor speaking in a language that you don't understand. Okay. So I hope that answers the question. Is this?
CJ, do you have any follow-up questions?
No, it's very clear. Thank you so much, Feng-Yi. Yeah.
Okay.
Awesome.
So
we also have another question. Do you want to pause for that one, or do you want to continue?
Let me continue and see if we have time to come back here. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So what else to learn for myself? So one thing is I see the connection between product researcher to market research and quantitative research, and then broader to technology and design, broader to management and business. That helped me to increase my knowledge in all these different fields and able to speak in a language they can understand. And then from there, if you are more knowledgeable in different fields, you probably can influence more horizontally and vertically, right? So you can influence your UXR team and to upper area to your manager to cross-functional team, and then that scale up to the bigger organization, right? Then to your counterparts, you also can influence your designers, your product team, and to the business strategy. So project-based, you might be able to influence the product roadmap. Then if everything goes smoothly, you practice your soft skill about presentation, communication, negotiation, how to build that relationship with different people so you can make the changes. A lot of time, the changes cannot be made because it's really not because you are not doing your job well enough. It's because another person don't understand your language, or another person don't agree on your value, and that cannot be surfaced without building that connection with the person. Then we are researchers, right? So we know how to ask the right question to understand another individuals, right? So a few different roles might be able to consider. So product researcher is the role to help the product team get closer to the users, right? And another role I can think of is a research leader. Then product get involved more in the product development process or be the people manager. The next one I put in a question mark because the time when I decided to go with psychology, I don't even know eventually there will be a UXR role. Right. So I think one thing is very important, which is the growth mindset. Right. Along the journey, if you pick up different skill, maybe you want to switch to different role, and that's totally fine in this generation. Right. Because so many different roles are popping up, like YouTuber. I don't even know how to explain that to someone like my parents. Right? How can YouTuber make money in the mechanism, the business model, etc. Right? If you pick up new skill set, you might want to shift it to another career path, and that's totally fine. And that's less costly at the early stage of your career than later. It's always more expensive later. Okay. Then be a research leader. Maybe you want to explore for other research approaches, right? To involve more in a product area, you may need more knowledge in product building. To cultivate more UX researchers, you can be a people manager. So let's recap a little bit. So I think in the UXR conference or product research conference, I heard a lot about what are the methodology you should apply to for this project or for this product or for this company. But actually, I see that as you need to see UXR as a part of the full picture. And there are different elements, different categories in this full picture. There are soft skill, there are environment, culture, and market, what is the platform, what is the business model, what is the strategy, who are the counterparts. If you are in a very small company, maybe you have limited role in the company, then you have wider space for you to explore. But if you are in a bigger company, usually everyone is very specific for one expertise. Then you just need to know yourself well enough to make that decision. What would be the better approach for you for current stage? So you put all the elements here. So this is my big picture of my story, right? And I urge everyone to think about what is your big picture, what story you want to write, right? Yeah, so this is the end of my presentation.
Hey everyone, on behalf of IterateUX, we would like to thank you so much for watching this week's event. If you like the content, please leave a like and subscribe. We'll have events every Thursday at 5:30 Pacific Time. Join our Discord in the description to find out more.